Welcome to our deep dive into Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning.
Oh, a fantastic choice.
You sent in those excerpts from a summary, and I gotta say,
Yeah.
they were pretty thought-provoking. It just seemed like the perfect material to really dig into, especially, Frankl's whole idea about finding purpose,
Mm,
even in the toughest situations.
absolutely. It's a book that really stays with you.
Oh,
Maybe just a quick refresher for folks in case
sure.
Frankl was a psychiatrist and he was imprisoned
Right.
in Nazi concentration camps during World War II.
Oh, wow.
And it was there in that experience he developed logotherapy.
Okay.
And that centers around this concept of the will to meaning
Yeah,
as like
right.
a fundamental human drive.
I'm really fascinated by that because, you think about those conditions, you would
Mm,
imagine like survival would be everyone's just absolute top priority.
right.
But Frankel's suggesting it's actually,
It's much deeper than that, yeah.
yeah, it's a lot more layered. Yeah.
Yeah, he argues that our core motivation
Mm.
isn't just about dodging pain or chasing pleasure,
Yeah.
but it's about this deeper search for meaning in life.
Okay.
And he saw this firsthand in the camps. He identified 3 ways that people found meaning:
Okay, I'm listening.
work, love, and this is the one that really gets you thinking:
Ugh.
suffering.
Suffering. I mean,
That's right.
how can anyone even begin to find meaning in something that's
Yeah.
so incredibly awful?
It is really a concept that kind of challenges our usual way
Yeah.
of thinking about things, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
But Frankl, he observed that even in the heart of suffering, people could discover a sense of purpose, like a reason to keep going.
Yeah.
And he even gives an example, like
Oh, yeah, you remember this.
visualizing a reunion with his wife,
Right.
even though they were separated during the war.
Yeah, that mental picture, that hope for the future. It's amazing to think that that could help someone
Right.
through that kind of present.
It's a powerful image,
Yeah.
but makes you wonder, how did he balance that hope with the brutal reality?
Right. Yeah, because it's almost like, was he just in denial?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
He wasn't
Yeah.
advocating for this kind of naive optimism
Right.
or ignoring the horrors that were happening.
Right. Of course not.
He recognized the importance of acknowledging suffering, absolutely.
Yeah.
But he also believed that even within that suffering, we can find,
Yeah.
something to hold on to,
Okay.
a reason to choose life.
So not pretending it wasn't there, but
Didn't-
but seeing like a glimmer, like a purpose within it.
Yes, exactly.
I think I'm starting to
Yeah.
understand. I'm wondering though, how does what he learned
Mm.
apply to,
To our lives.
to everyday life now?
Yeah. Well, that's where logotherapy comes in. It's not just about surviving trauma. It's
Oh.
about thriving.
Okay.
It's about, everyday life.
So logotherapy, is that where the word like logos comes from?
It is. It is. Logos means meaning in Greek.
Oh, okay.
And so it's really about helping people uncover their own unique purpose.
Okay. So if our goals kind of represent a source of meaning, as Frankl says,
Mm-hmm.
how do we know when we have goals that maybe don't align with our values anymore?
Oh, that's such a great point. I think it's about
Yeah.
constantly kind of checking in with yourself, reevaluating and adjusting.
Right.
Logotherapy encourages you to ask, like, what are the things that truly matter to me?
Yeah.
What kind of impact do I want to have on the world?
Yeah.
And are my actions actually matching up with those deeper values?
I see. So it's not just about achieving any goal.
Right.
It's about going after ones that really resonate with who you are.
Precisely. And Frankl believed that this whole process of searching for meaning,
Mm-hmm.
it's ongoing. It's not about reaching like a final answer.
Okay.
It's about constantly engaging with the question of what gives your life purpose.
Okay. But I want to go back to the
Yeah.
suffering for a minute,
Wrong.
because I am still kind of grappling with how can we actually find meaning when
Right.
things are really hard?
Yeah. Frankl observed that those who survived the camps
Yeah.
often had this strong sense of purpose.
Okay.
It might have been a task that they felt called to complete, a future they envisioned, or even a belief system
Right.
that sustained them. They found something to hold on to, even when everything else.
Even when all seemed lost.
Exactly.
He shares some pretty specific examples of this.
That's right. He does. He does. There's this incredible story
Yeah.
about how Frankl lost his manuscript in the camp.
I was just thinking about that.
Can you imagine the despair
Oh, yeah.
of losing something so precious?
Mm.
especially in those conditions.
Especially in those conditions.
But amidst all the chaos, he finds a page from a Hebrew prayer book,
Wow.
and it inspires him to rewrite his work.
Oh, that's remarkable. So even in that moment of loss,
Yeah.
he found like a spark of hope, a renewed purpose. But I mean,
Mhm.
isn't that just because he was,
Yeah.
so extraordinarily resilient?
That's what Frankl wants us to understand.
Okay.
He doesn't believe that finding meaning in suffering is about being superhuman
Okay.
or denying the pain.
Right.
It's about recognizing that even in the darkest of times, we have a choice.
A choice.
But-
But I mean, doesn't that oversimplify things? When you're
You know.
facing that kind of suffering, you don't have a lot of options.
Of course, of course. The circumstances could be
Yeah.
incredibly limiting, absolutely.
Yeah.
But Frankl's talking about the power to choose our attitude,
Okay.
our mindset.
Okay.
We can choose to succumb to despair,
Yeah.
or we can choose to search for meaning, a reason to keep going.
I see. So even if we can't control what's
Happening around us,
yeah,
we can control how we
respond.
respond to it
Exactly.
internally.
And that choice, it can make all the difference.
So he's not saying that suffering is good.
No.
He's not saying that we should go looking for it. He's saying when it comes, we have the power to decide how we...
How we relate to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great way to put it.
Okay.
He's not advocating for a life of suffering,
Yeah.
but for a life where suffering, when it comes, can be transformed
Okay.
into a source of growth and meaning.
This is all making me think about how today
Yeah.
there's just so much emphasis on happiness,
Mm-hmm.
like positivity,
Right. At all costs.
at all costs.
Yeah.
Frankl seems to be saying something totally different.
He does, and I think that's something we should delve into in our
Right.
next part. You know how he challenges this modern obsession with happiness?
Yeah.
And how, his work can help us build...
A more resilient and meaningful life, even when things are far from perfect.
I'm ready for that.
All right,
Let's do it.
let's do it.
You were saying how Frankl's ideas kind of challenge
Yeah.
our modern obsession with happiness.
They do, don't they? It's like we're constantly trying to outsmart being human.
Right.
Frankl, he reminds us that suffering, it's just part of life.
Yeah.
It's not something to be scared of or try to avoid,
Yeah.
but it's something to really grapple with,
Yeah.
and it can actually be a source of growth.
That's kind of a radical idea
It
in
is.
our, good vibes only culture. But
Right.
but how do we square that with like real pain and
Yeah.
hardship that people are going through?
Yeah.
I mean, isn't there a danger in minimizing that
Yeah.
by saying it can be a path to meaning?
It's a delicate balance.
Yeah.
And Frankl was very clear.
Yeah.
He wasn't romanticizing suffering
Right.
or saying that it's inherently good.
Right. Of course not.
He went through unimaginable horrors in the camps.
Yeah.
But he saw
Mm-hmm.
that those who found a reason to keep going, even like a tiny, tiny glimmer of purpose,
Yes. Right.
they were more likely to survive.
So it's not about pretending it's not there.
Yeah.
But about finding a way to
To move through it.
move through it, to find something.
Yeah, to transcend it.
Yeah, to transcend it and find something in it that gives you strength.
Exactly. It's
Mm.
about, tapping into that will to meaning that we
Mhm.
talked about before. He believed that confronting our struggles
Mm-hmm.
rather than trying to run from them,
Okay.
that could be a path to meaning. What do you think about that?
Mm-hmm.
Especially in...
It's hard to embrace that. We're just
Yeah.
conditioned to seek comfort, to avoid discomfort.
Mhm.
But I can see how like pushing ourselves to deal with
Yeah.
tough emotions, asking those tough questions could lead us to a deeper understanding of ourselves and where we fit in the world.
It's not about
Yeah.
seeking out suffering, of course.
Right.
Nobody wants to go through pain.
No.
But when it comes up, as it
Mhm.
inevitably does,
Yeah.
we have a choice. We can either let it consume us,
Mhm.
or we can use it as an opportunity for growth.
It makes me think of that saying, like, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Right.
But Frankl's like taking it a step further.
He is...
It's not just about
Yep.
getting stronger.
It's about the meaning.
It's finding meaning in the struggle itself. Do you think that's always possible?
That's a really honest question.
Yeah.
Frankl doesn't give easy answers
Right.
or guarantees. He's not saying we're going to have this like
Yeah.
huge epiphany in the middle of suffering where everything suddenly makes sense.
Yeah.
But he suggests that even in the the darkest places. There can be moments of light,
Ah,
little acts of defiance,
right.
glimmers of hope, and those can make all the difference.
You mentioned before, like, the people who survived the camps,
Yeah,
often they clung to some kind of purpose.
they did.
Are there other examples besides the manuscript story?
Oh, yeah, there are. Many found meaning in small acts of kindness,
Oh, okay.
connecting with others,
Yeah.
even just appreciating a beautiful sunset
Yeah.
in the midst of all the ugliness.
Yeah, it wasn't about these
No, not
all
that.
big gestures, but
Yeah.
just these little
Yeah, those little
the
sparks.
little sparks of light. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
And those small acts, those moments of connection,
Yeah.
those were their acts of resistance.
Yeah.
They were reclaiming their humanity.
Right. Right.
And that's something we can all do,
Yeah.
no matter what our circumstances are.
Yeah.
We can choose to focus on those glimmers of hope, those moments of beauty, even when we're surrounded by suffering.
It's a powerful reminder that
Uh-huh.
even when we feel powerless, we still have that power to choose
Yeah.
how we react, how we respond
Mhm.
to what's happening. But sometimes those negative emotions can just feel
Oh, absolutely. So overwhelming.
it can. And the summary, it acknowledges that.
Yeah.
It talks about how difficult it can be
Mm.
to force ourselves to be positive,
Right.
and how sometimes we look for short-term happiness
Yeah.
instead of that long-term peace. What are your thoughts on that?
I thought that was
Yeah.
really interesting because it's so easy
It is.
to get caught up in
Yeah.
that cycle of wanting to feel good all the time.
Right.
So you reach for another cookie or you scroll social media for hours.
Right.
These little distractions
Yeah, that's a distraction.
that give you a temporary boost,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't really deal with the underlying issues.
It's the trap of instant gratification.
We live in a world where we're constantly bombarded
Oh, you are.
with messages about seeking pleasure and avoiding pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Frankl, he's suggesting
Uh-huh.
that true fulfillment comes from something much, much deeper.
So instead of asking myself, what will make me happy right now, I should be asking, what gives my life meaning?
Yes.
But what if I don't know the answer to that?
Well, that's where his ideas about responsibility
Okay.
come in. He argues that we're not just victims of our circumstances.
Okay.
We have the power to choose how we respond, to actively create meaning in our lives.
So it's not about waiting for it to find us.
Right.
It's about actively going after it, creating it through our choices and actions.
Precisely. He even talks about 3 specific areas where
Yeah.
people tend to choose negativity, pain, guilt, and death.
Yeah.
And he offers antidotes.
I remember that part of the summary.
Yeah.
Turning pain into accomplishment,
Yes.
guilt into responsibility, and loss into a reminder of how precious life is.
Those are powerful, powerful examples of how
Yeah.
we can shift our perspective and find meaning,
Mm-hmm.
even in those hard moments. It's not about denying the
Right.
negative emotions,
Mm-hmm.
but transforming them
Yeah.
into something positive, something that fuels our growth.
That's
Okay.
a big shift in thinking.
It is.
Instead of
Yeah.
being consumed by those emotions,
Yeah.
we can actually use them
Yeah.
like fuel for our journey.
Yes, finding that opportunity for growth within the struggle.
Exactly. And that's where we really start to see the
Yeah.
power of logotherapy. It's not just a bunch of theories.
Right,
It's
yeah.
really a framework
Yeah,
for living a more intentional and meaningful life.
absolutely.
I'm starting to see how this all connects.
Yeah.
The will to meaning, logotherapy, finding purpose in suffering.
It's all connected.
It's all connected. It's about recognizing our own agency, our own power to choose meaning even in the most difficult times.
I got it.
But how do we actually put this into practice?
Right.
How do we go from
That's the big question.
from these big ideas to
Yeah.
concrete actions?
And that's the heart of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's what we'll explore in the final part of this deep dive. We'll look at Frankl's practical advice
Okay.
on how to take those big ideas
Yeah.
and put them into action.
Mhm.
How to really live a more meaningful life day by day.
Okay, so we've been talking about these really, really powerful ideas.
Yeah.
The will to meaning, logotherapy, even finding purpose in suffering. But I'm wondering how do we actually put this into practice?
It's one thing to kind of get it in our heads,
Yeah.
but how do we actually live it out?
Right. What are some practical steps that we can?
Yeah, Frankl doesn't just leave us with theory.
Yeah, that's good, because,
He gives us some really solid advice
yeah.
on how to take these ideas and make them actionable.
Okay, that's what I'm looking for. Give me the actionable steps.
Okay, well, remember those three paths to meaning that we talked about.
Right.
Doing something you love,
Mm-hmm.
experiencing something deeply,
Yeah.
and finding meaning through suffering.
Right, right.
He encourages us to figure out which of those really, really resonate for us right now.
Okay.
It could be one, it could be all three,
Yeah.
but the key is to actively go after those things.
So if somebody's passionate about, let's say, writing,
Hmm.
but they haven't touched a pen in years because, life got in the way, Frankel would say.
Yeah, make time for it.
Make time for it, yeah.
Prioritize it.
Okay, so prioritize those
Yeah.
activities, even if they're, not huge, big things.
It doesn't have to be some grand thing.
Yeah.
It could be, you know, spending time in nature,
Yeah.
listening to music, having a deep conversation with a friend. Just make space for those things
Right.
that really kind of feed your soul.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. What about that second path, though?
Hmm.
The experiencing something or someone deeply. What does that look like
Yeah.
in everyday life?
It's about being present,
Okay.
really being there, fully engaged in that moment.
Okay.
It could be, really savoring a meal,
Yeah.
losing yourself in a good book, truly listening
Yeah.
to someone you care about. It's about cultivating that sense of wonder
Mm-hmm.
and appreciation for the beauty and the complexity of life,
Right.
even in the ordinary, the everyday stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. It's about like slowing down,
Yeah.
paying attention,
Yeah.
soaking it all in.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the third path, finding meaning in suffering, I'm still kind of
I know.
struggling with that one.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
How do you actually do that?
It starts with a shift in how we're seeing things.
Yeah.
It's about reframing those difficult experiences
Mm-hmm.
so that they allow us to grow, to find the lesson, the opportunity within the struggle.
I mean, that sounds really abstract, though. Can you give me like a more
Sure.
concrete example?
Okay. Think about a time when you went through a big challenge,
Yeah.
like maybe losing a job,
Mhm.
a health scare, the ending of a relationship, something like that. It was probably incredibly painful at the time.
Yeah, definitely.
But looking back on it,
Mm-hmm.
did you learn anything from that?
Yeah.
Did it change you? Maybe even for the better.
Actually, yeah, I can think of a time a
Yeah.
few years ago I had a project I was leading and it just completely fell apart.
Oh, wow.
It was a huge blow to my confidence, but looking back,
Yeah.
I realized that experience it forced me to develop new skills,
Yeah.
become more resilient,
Hmm.
learn to ask for help. So,
That's a great example.
yeah.
You didn't deny the pain, but you found a way to take meaning from it,
Yeah.
to let it shape you in a good way.
Yeah, okay.
That's what Frankl's talking about.
Yeah.
It's not about going after suffering.
Right.
It's about finding the meaning in the suffering that comes to us.
It's about recognizing that those tough times,
Yeah.
as painful as they are,
Yeah.
they can be catalysts
you.
for growth.
Right. They can really push us forward.
And that realization can be like really empowering
It is.
because it means even when things are really, really hard, we still have that power to
Yeah.
choose our attitude, to
Mhm.
find meaning,
Mhm.
to grow from it.
Absolutely.
All of this, I mean, it's inspiring, but it also feels like
I know what you mean.
a lot of responsibility. Like it's all up to me
Yes,
to find meaning in my life.
You're right. It is a responsibility,
Yeah.
but it's also, as Frankl says, a privilege. It means that we have agency. We have the power to shape our own destinies.
Right.
So we're not just passively receiving meaning, we're actively creating it.
Okay, so what's the first step? What can I do like today
Yeah.
to start living a more meaningful life?
Start by just taking some time to reflect on your values. What
Yeah.
really matters to you? What are you passionate about?
Yeah.
What kind of impact do you want to have on the world?
Okay, that's a good starting point.
It is.
What else can I do?
Look for opportunities to connect with others.
Okay.
Reach out to a friend, volunteer in your community, or just start a conversation with somebody new.
Okay.
That human connection is one of the most powerful sources of meaning.
Yeah.
And it can really bring a sense of purpose
Yeah.
even when things are tough.
I love that. And I'm sure, based on his experiences in the camps, Frankel would agree. Any other advice you'd give?
Practice gratitude. Take a minute each day. to
Oh.
appreciate
Okay.
the good things in your life, big or small.
Mm-hmm.
Gratitude, it can really be a powerful antidote to negativity,
Yeah.
and it can help us to really shift our focus to what's important.
This all makes so much sense. It's not about
Yeah.
forcing ourselves to be happy all the time.
Right.
It's about finding those things
Yeah, finding those sources of meaning.
that give us meaning, that
Yeah.
sustain us, that give us a reason to keep going,
These are,
even when things are tough.
you got it. And Frankel's message, it's just as important today
Mm-hmm.
as it was, all those years ago.
Right.
We all face challenges.
Yeah.
We all experience suffering,
We do.
but we also have the capacity to choose meaning, to choose purpose,
Mm-hmm.
and to choose a life that is rich with both joy and resilience.
Wow, this
Yeah.
has been such an insightful deep dive. Thank you so much
Oh, it's been my pleasure.
for guiding me through Frankel's work. I feel like I have a
Yeah.
whole new set of tools to deal with life's ups and downs.
And remember that journey of finding meaning.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing thing. It's not about reaching some final destination.
Right.
It's about embracing the process of exploring and questioning and
Yeah.
growing.
That's a great reminder. And to our listeners out there, what's one thing that they can take away from this deep dive that can help them on their own journey?
Just remember that you have that power to choose meaning,
Hmm.
even when you're facing suffering.
Mm-hmm.
Start by reflecting on your values,
Yeah.
connecting with others,
Yeah.
and practicing gratitude.
Okay.
And never give up on that search for what makes your life
Mm-hmm.
truly meaningful.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into man's search for meaning. Until next time,
Mm-hmm.
keep searching, keep growing,
Yeah.
and keep choosing meaning.